thanks to everybody who has made it to this particular event as well. And then for those who have been with us since week 1 up until now, we're very grateful for your time and your effort, at least, being part of this. If any of you were able to visit the other portal, I posted a blog, and then I had a comment on there, and in the comments there was a question. I don't know if anyone was able to actually see it and maybe think about it. I was asking that, assuming there is no DRep rewarding system or scheme, what could motivate you as an individual to actually participate in this whole DRep stuff? I don't know if anybody would want to have the mic and then say a word or two, and then we can take it from there.
I think it's self-motivational because well, I've been just introduced to this whole DRep education thing since you started, and I've been following keenly. I think it's something that once you go through, you acquire certain basic skills which are very marketable. That can help advance your personal goals, career development and things like that. So apart from looking at the broader incentives, or what they call a extrinsic motivation, I think there should be some intrinsic motivation as well. Your personal goal to be equipped with these relevant skills, which is marketable in the job market, and that should get you going. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that insight. I believe a lot of us here also share the same sentiments. So I'll just go ahead before we run out of time. All right. So today we are looking at Model 3. And Model 3, basically, you're going to focus on the reward scheme for DReps. As it stands now, there is no defined reward scheme. It is still under this, still in progress as they continue to discuss, the alternatives available and the options available to see which one really would work perfectly. But of course, there's been some proposals that, is being maybe reviewed and then probably or possibly could be considered in the nearest future when this DRep go live. So Eduva, next please. Okay, so yeah, hold on here. Thank you. Yeah, so the incentive scheme that we're going to look at was actually inspired by one fine gentleman called Evangelos Makakis, who is from the IOG research team. He has put forth, he has at least put together a proposal that, could probably be the reward scheme that we'll be working with as far as DRep is concerned. But then it is, like I said earlier, it is still under, scrutiny. We're still discussing it to see if indeed it turns out to be the best that we can actually go by. But I'm quite optimistic that, we could probably start with that, and then as time goes by, we will refine it. Just like we have to do with Catalyst over time, Next slide, please. Okay, so we've come a long way. We've come a very long way. I think 4 weeks now, and I know, just like we had a question last week that had to do with the incentivization for DReps. I believe it was some other individuals were probably also asking themselves the same question, whether DReps should even be compensated, and then if they should be compensated, then how should it all work out, right? So that is the main reason why this session is really, really important as far as this whole workshop is concerned. And I would like to just touch on a few things, then we can look at the actual scheme that has been proposed and how it will actually affect the whole process as time flies by. So, like I said earlier, this is still an ongoing debate as to whether DRep should be compensated or not. As we all know, as it stands now, SQL operators are being compensated for the work they do, which is maintenance of blocks for the ecosystem. They get rewards for that. But now, DRep is also a new evolution that we are looking at. And the question now lies that, should it be compensated, or we should just, let it run like that without having to compensate anybody for what they do? And even if it should even if it has to be compensated, how how should the structure work out? Should it be a structure that is maybe coming from the treasury, or should we be charging it from proposal fees that we get? I mean, those who propose governance action, the fees that we take, should we actually take the funds from that end, or we should make a blend? I mean, a mix of the two, or how should we even go about it? I think from this session we are going to learn about all of these various fields, and then get a fair knowledge of what is ahead of us. So, evaluating the effect of election outcomes, there's a need to get more informed on an election topic, and aggregate and refine the input of other stakeholders' time and effort. And we all know that many, for example, like SPUs are already incentivized to participate given their stake, like I said earlier. And then their value is something that can really be affected by governance action, right? And the monetary rewards could attract more participation. That is one of the main reasons why, I mean, the debate of whether DRep should be compensated or not has actually come up, because there's this certain belief that once there's this monetary compensation, obviously a lot of people are actually going to be interested and then show up to actually participate in these whole activities. But unlike someone said in the beginning that except for the learning part and all, others are also really looking forward to, I mean, making it their full-time job so that they get some living out of it. And then the engagement within the Cardano by smaller or medium-sized stakeholders also has to play a key role as to as far as compensation is concerned. Next slide, please. Okay, so like I said, there's a proposal on board that is being debated amongst the community. So hopefully sometime to come, we're going to have a final version with respect to what scheme you're going to use. So the proposal basically has to do with an on-chain compensation mechanism that rewards DReps in ADA. That is the title of the proposal at the moment. And there are some bullet points that we are going to look at. So one, the reward is based on the stake delegated to each DRep. Like I said, there are actually, variables that we're going to look at over here. There are some variables that we're going to look at. So a measurable quantity, which is easy to take a snapshot of delegated stake at predetermined epoch boundaries. That is how the reward should probably be based on. And then also, we could also have dependence rewards on other parameters too. Example is on number of wallets delegating to a DRep. And then, but then this, however, may create incentives for misbehavior. And if you remember, we talked about anti-cyber activities in the code of conduct. So one thing that could actually promote these cyber attacks is when we create incentives. We allow number of wallets delegating to a DRep become a threshold for actually rewarding a certain DRep for their activities that they do. And at the moment, we favor simplicity and propose as an essential initial scheme that rewards are solely dependent on delegated stake, and there's a flexibility for adjustments later on. So this is basically what the entire proposal looks like. This is kind of the synopsis of the proposal. As we dive deep, we are going to understand what the various variables look like, and then what samples are available, and what we could actually make out of it. Next slide, please. So there's a question that is actually very important now: DRep incentive versus stake pool incentives. So as it is being debated as to whether even DRep should be incentivized for what they do, there's also the need to actually think about how DRep should be incentivized, or even how much should they be incentivized as opposed to stake pool operators. And we all know that any honest stake pool operator, no matter how small, they add to the decentralization and improve the security of the ecosystem. Like I said, they mint the blocks, so they ensure that there's this security level that is always running. And then also a DRep only improves the outcome if and these are like parameters that we are actually trying to understand, so that we get a fair knowledge of whether indeed we should consider DReps being incentivized. And even if they should be incentivized, how should their structure go, like, how much should they earn out of what they do. So a DRep only improves their outcome if one, they offer a deeper understanding of the issue at hand. And like I said the other time, if a DRep is not able to, meet the knowledge criteria, then obviously there is not really a need of, somebody becoming a DRep, because you are supposed to fill in the knowledge gap that an individual who is an ADA holder cannot really have the time to do, So you need to have that knowledge, and also voters' effort to find an appropriate DRep is less than that of voting directly. Of course, if you're a voter and you want to vote, it is quite easy. It is quite easy in the sense that a lot of people really don't want to spend time reading the proposals and getting to understand the technicalities before they even cast their vote, right? They just do some brush offs and then they go ahead and then they vote whichever way they feel is good for them. But and these really affect the ecosystem negatively. So that is why there's a need for a DRep to come on board. So if a DRep is coming on board to actually take up the role of having to read and understand before they make a decision, then I think it falls in place if there's a reward system that actually has been designed to reward whichever DRep that is doing this work for the entire community. So the DRep reward scheme should basically induce more competition so that DReps are incentivized to engage with the community, present convincing arguments, and eventually attract delegation. So if there is no, if the incentive structure is not made such that DReps are actually kind of encouraged to do a lot of research before they even cast their votes or whatever, then obviously we'll have a lot of people actually coming in and then just influxing the whole ecosystem as DReps, and at the end of the day, it turns out to be almost like normal people just voting. So there's no really equality in there. But the reward structure has to be such that any DRep would want to actually take up the lentil of going the research way and then making relevant decisions to help the growth of the ecosystem. Next slide, please. So out of the proposal title, there has been some research that has gone on. And here are some few findings that we have to consider going forward. So the first one has to do with purely proportional reward sharing, where according to, we share rewards according to delegated stakes. This does not really seem desirable, If, for instance, you're going to say that if maybe DRep A has about 100 wallets delegating to them, and then let's say DRep B has just about 40 wallets delegating to them, then automatically DRep A gets or earns a lot of rewards as compared to, DRep B. It doesn't sound desirable in the sense that DRep B, despite having about 40 people delegating to them, it could be that the voting power that they are holding is huge as compared to DRep A having 100 delegators. So this particular finding, is kind of not really desirable. So theoretical analysis implies that it does not include much competition, and that's motivation for engagement. Because if somebody feels like I need maybe 1,000 DReps, 1,000 delegators delegate to me so that I earn rewards, then a person who's going to work probably will not pay much attention to the quality of work that they have to do, but rather I would think about how to actually get people to delegate to them, and that is going by dubious means to actually earn this and then get the rewards, and then that is it. So there will not be much of competition and proper engagement over there. The second one has to do with the core of the proposed candidate schemes for voter. So that one we say that reward up to we have a variable here, M, DReps in terms of stake delegated to them, parameter M to be determined, and then all proportionately, but with a bonus to the top DReps. So this is the core parameter that we are going to look at, or we are going to touch base on as far as this scheme is concerned. So they're saying that if, let's say, a DRep, has about let me use maybe a 1 million ADA delegation, right? you consider that value when you're giving out the rewards. That is the first part. The second part also is that you can decide to have a certain pool of reward, and then that pool be shared amongst all DReps equally. And then out of that particular pool, there's a cut or there's a portion that be assigned to, top DReps. And the top DReps here, we're talking about DReps who have about, who have risen through the ranks and are on top. So are on top in a sense that they have huge delegation, and they also have, huge delegators. So these two come together to actually describe or define who a top DRep would be in the ecosystem. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so now you're looking at a scheme that has been drafted out of the proposal. And like I said, there are variables. So we're going to look at variables, variable 1, variable 2, and then variable 3. And so with variable 1, we say let us be the stake delegated to a DRep in an election for a governance action as percentage of total delegated stake. So now you're going to look at how the formulas actually come together and how it even makes sense. So we're saying that f of s is equal to reward given to a DRep with delegated stake equal to s. And then variant A, 1A, has to do with top M flat scheme. And the M here is representing DRep, right? So we are looking at the top M flat scheme. So we are basically trying to say that, okay, so this particular variant goes in favor of top DReps. So you get your reward when you're among the top DReps, right? So we say that f of s equals r as long as the DRep is among the top, as long as the DRep is among the top M DReps in terms of stake delegated to him or her. And M and R are parameters that will need to be determined based on available funds, right? So a typical example is, let's say M equals 100 and R equals 1,000. So like I said, or I said earlier, M would refer to delegation, the number of delegators here, and then R would refer to the delegation power or the voting power that has been delegated to you as a DRep. So suppose also that there are 250 DReps, right? So we rank the DReps by their total delegated stake, and then we also say that the first DReps receive 1,000 ADA, and then the remaining 150 do not receive any payment. This is in the sense that, for instance, if you are looking at a total of, let's say, which figure? Let me use a smaller figure so it makes sense. Let's say you have a total of 1,000 ADA being there, or let me say 2,500 ADA delegated to 250 DReps, and the very first 100 DReps, they are holding about they are holding a total of, say, they are holding a total of about 2,200 ADA out of the 2,500 ADA total, right? So automatically, what it means is that these 100 DReps, they are holding a huge chunk of the delegation here. So they now form the top DRep that we are looking at. And then the rest who are holding just about 300 ADA, they now for those 150 obviously means that they don't have enough power to actually affect decisions in the ecosystem now. So now this variant is saying that these 150, they don't get rewards for their participation in the DRep election or in a voting election, right? But then the 100 who are actually holding about 2,200 ADA, those guys are the ones who will get the rewards. So the rewards will be shared equally among those 100 DReps who are holding the huge chunk of the delegation. So that is how the variant 1 looks like. And then we look at the variant 1B. So that is for variant 1A. And then 1B says that top M threshold based scheme. That's the title to it, top M threshold based scheme. So that one we're saying that f of s equals r as long as a stake delegated to a DRep is at least 1 out of M as a percentage of the total active voting stake. So this scheme rewards up to M DReps, which is whatever number of DReps. In some cases, it will pay less than M DReps, yeah. And then it provides better incentives for DReps to make an effort, but also makes it more difficult for a DRep to actually collect a reward here. So what this basically means is that if you take a pool of 100 DReps, and let's say out of the 100 DReps, they have been able to accumulate a total of about 1 million voting power. But then among the 100 DReps, you have about 20 of them holding 80% of the 1 million voting power. Automatically, this 20 DReps become the topmost DReps in there. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of factors that actually comes to say this person is, among the top DRep, and that has to do with the number of delegators and also the value of delegation that you're actually holding. So they come on top as the top DReps, this 20, and then the remaining 80, they are not part of the top DReps, but they are DReps participating in an active governance action. So these top DReps, there's a percentage that is shared among them, right? And then they get that rewards. Sometimes the rewards might be less because among the 20, there is somebody who is also holding huge. It is very rare that you have all of them holding the same amount. Obviously, one is going to hold more than the other. So it's going to look at that hierarchical arrangement and then reward as such. And then this one, we're saying that it provides a better, incentive for the DReps to make an effort. At least if you know that, if you happen to be the topmost DRep, then for each and every action that goes on, you will be the one to get the best of rewards. The huge rewards. You'll be the one to get. So now what it means is that everybody is going to struggle to actually want to be a part of, the topmost, right? Or probably be the topmost DRep around so that they can get or earn the best of rewards. But then this variant kind of looks at doing away with those ones who are not part of the topmost section, and it is not really a good model in a sense that if you have about like I said, if you have about 100 DReps participating and just 20 of them are actually topmost DReps, the remaining 80, for their participation, they're not going to earn any rewards. And it is going to demotivate them to actually want to continue this whole journey, right? So it is not really, desirable, as said earlier. Next slide, please. Now, the variant 2 is what we call the simple schemes, and these schemes is something that has actually been implemented around. There are organizations who are using these schemes, so it is not something. I believe it is going to be easy for us to understand as compared to variant 1, which is a bit more complicating and technical. So with variant 2, we're saying that still a top M rewarding scheme, but DReps with higher delegations collect a higher reward. And then we are saying that with variant 2A, the top M proportional scheme. So we rank the DReps by their total delegated stake, and then we select the first M to receive a reward. And the M here I'm talking about refers to a DRep to receive a reward. And then if B is the available budget for rewards, the proposal pays the top M DReps, but in proportion to the stake delegated to them. So here you realize that what happens is that, even somebody with 100 ADA delegated to them as DReps, right, can be a part of a top, the top DReps, because we are going to descend from topmost and then come down like that. And there's going to be a pool, right? This one, there's going to be a pool, a budget. So until the budget is exhausted, it is very likely that everybody will at least get something to hold on to. But there's still that kind of demotivation factor here, because if you have like say 5,000 either the delegation and you're getting rewards of about, let's say, 10 ADA for your participation in a governance action, it kind of demotivates, just like the current voting round, right? So if your voting power doesn't meet a certain threshold and you don't vote in a certain number of proposals, you get very less rewards or even nothing, as compared to somebody who's holding, like, say, 700,000 ADA, casting votes. Not many, but getting huge rewards at the end of the day. So it's like the more you have, the more you earn, that kind of lifestyle. But this has to be in a way that even if you have less and you're able to participate, at least you get something meaningful. That kind of motivate you to even want to do more in the nearest future. And most likely the payment of the DRep will not be very large. So this one, like I'm saying, even if you are the topmost DRep, right? This variant is looking at you not really receiving a very huge part of, the pool, as opposed to, variant one where the topmost gets the highest and then it descends downwards, right? Of course, if you are the topmost, you get something meaningful, but it wouldn't be, a very huge part of the entire pool. Because once we do it that way, then obviously we are sucking away, every other person who is at the bottom, and it is not really good. So variant 2B also has to do with the top M linear proportional scheme. So you run the DREs by their total delegated stake. And then the difference with 2A and 2B is that we select up to M DREs to receive a reward. And then only those whose delegated stake is at least 1 out of M as a percentage of the total active voting stake gets to receive the reward. So here with a 2B, what happens is that, out of, let's say, 100 DREPs participating in a governance action, right? A structure be put in place to select maybe 80 or 70 or 50 or whatever, depending on some criteria. So when they do meet these criteria, then they are automatically selected to receive a reward from the pool. And this reward is going to be flat. So it's not like one person is getting higher than the other person, right? Everybody who has been selected is going to get the same reward. So for instance, a typical example of the criteria could be that as a DREP, let's say for instance, you vote on you make a very decisive vote on, maybe 10 governance actions, and then you are selected to be part of the DREPs who actually get to receive a reward. Or even if it is a single governance action that is active at the moment, there still has to be a criteria that you can actually, that you have to meet to be able to, get a reward. And the idea behind this is that it is going to motivate DREPs to actually want to do a better job. So it's like, you walking into a country where the country has its own laws. Obviously, you are forced to, abide by those laws, regardless of wherever you're coming from, right? So you will be, in as much as you want to be free and then, go about your business, you also have to be extremely careful what you do and what you don't do, as far as the laws are concerned, so that you don't get yourself in trouble. So as a DREP too, when you walk in here, you need to respect those laws or those criteria, so that at the end of the day, your efforts are not in vain. You understand? Right. And then from there we'll proceed as in the last step of 2A, which is most likely the payment to the DREP will not be very large. Yeah, obviously. Next slide, please. Now, on the variant 3, which is the most interesting one, at least for me, is that we would accommodate a reward to every DREP while still providing higher payments to the top DREPs. And with the variant 3, we call it a proportional with a bonus for top. So, like I said, there has to be this structure that is friendly, that invites everybody to at least want to participate. But then when you get to participate, you know that there are some criteria that you need to meet to be able to climb up the ladder. And of course, you know that when you climb up the ladder and you get there, then aside from what you are getting, right, there's still a bonus that you can actually get in addition to your main rewards, right? And I think that is what makes the most sense to me as far as reward schemes is concerned. So the parameters is that budget B1 will be split among all DReps. And then budget B2 will be split among top DReps. That is the simplest analogy that we can actually look at. So the protocol pays all the DReps in proportion to the stake delegated to them from budget B1. And then it also gives an additional bonus to the topmost DReps from budget B2. And then we can use any of the variants 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B for this. But I'm actually thinking that, you know, of course, it wouldn't really be fair that, you know, somebody is holding, you know, if somebody has put in the work to actually be able to attract about 1 million ADA delegation, then it only makes sense that, you know, they get rewards that, you know, will make them feel okay, that this is good, you know, as compared to somebody who probably has not put in the work and has just about maybe 1,000 ADA delegation. It could be that you may have put in the work, but you've not seen the results, right? But at least if you know that somebody has put in the work and has seen the results and is earning around, say, 5,000 ADA as a reward, right? Despite you also earning a reward, but knowing that your reward is not as huge as his, it kind of sends down a motivation to you that, okay, if you work extremely hard and then, you know, you get there, you're also going to enjoy the benefits that they are getting. And I think that should be a fair balance as far as motivation is concerned, you know, either ways. And Edufa, you stop sharing. Okay, so Edufa left. All right. So on the variant 3, should I share my screen? Like, let me share my screen.
Yes, Nana, so at this point, maybe I do for a lost connection or something. If you can
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, let me share my screen real quick.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so this could make all the reps happier, of course. While still, I mean, ensuring that there's competition to be among the top DReps, because everybody now wants to become a top DRep because they know what is there, they know what the incentives over there looks like. And then for simplicity, we could just have budget 1 equals budget 2 equals, you know, budget divided by 2. So we split budget 1 into 2, and then 1 is for all DReps, and then the other will be for, I mean, the topmost DReps. But of course, there has to be that percentage or proportion. So either 70 for all DReps and then 30 for, I mean, topmost DReps, which in my view, I think it makes sense when we go like that. And then where be the total amount of available funds. So now we've come to I think the end of this DRep scheme, and at least we have catch up on the main spirit underlying all schemes, which is to incentivize DReps to attract delegations. And then most variants have already been presented to the Edinburgh 1694 workshop that took place some time ago. And then all variants are easy to implement, except for their own complications and, you know, the sentiments. And then the proposal is agnostic to the source of funds for paying the DReps. So we are saying that some could actually come from the treasury and then some from the proposer, but the specific amounts are not necessarily a research question that is being discussed yet. It's just about, you know, where do we get the funds from, you know, to actually facilitate this whole rewards that we're talking about. Yeah, so that will be it for today's session. The next session will be looking at a pragmatic view of actually becoming a DRep in the ecosystem. So let me just stop here and then give room for question and answers. I think we have some time here. It's almost 5. All right, so I'll stop here.
Yes, that's always a brilliant delivery from your end. Thank you very much. Yes, it's almost 5, but we can spend some time. I can see Martin still talking in the French breakout room, so I am not sure they are done.
Okay.
So we can stay on for anybody to want to ask any questions. I saw a lot of mathematics being displayed today for mathphobia. It's it's some way, but it's all good. You were also very articulate, and I think everything was on point. While we're on the call, somebody who is a friend of Wada, a key member of the Cardano ecosystem, I met in Barcelona during the Fan 12 launch. He joined. He's called Lucas. For those of us who
Okay.
are very regular on the call, you are familiar with him. He comes often, and he sent me a direct message before he left. I will read to you if you think it's relevant and we can explore that. That would be great.
Sure.
He was talking about the fact that if we want to share this DRep education later, he posted a link to a Miro board that he said he uses to run his DRep workshop. I don't know if that is relevant. If you don't mind, I can copy and share to everybody. Maybe you might want to look at it after this call. If it's relevant, you want to
Yeah, do
explore with
share.
us next week. I think that'll be fine. What do you
Yeah,
think?
do share. Yeah, do share.
And he
I
also
think
stated that
it is all good.
he also stated that he spreads out the reward schemes in a way that may help understand the relationship between them. Any reaction to that? Do you understand what you meant?
Come again, he stressed it in a way that
It says he spreads it in a way that may help understand the relationship between them. I don't know if that makes
okay.
sense.
I think it has to do with the various complications around the various variants that we talked about. You know, the variants are sometimes confusing and sometimes like you said, there are some mathematics in there, and if you're not really somebody who really likes mathematics, or if sometimes it becomes difficult for you to actually try to understand. And even if sometimes you understand, how it is being calculated at the end of the day, it becomes even difficult for you to actually follow through. Like for instance, if you look at the rewards for, voting with Catalyst right now, right?
Yeah.
The formula is there, all right, but when you take your time to calculate, it doesn't really, add up for you. Like you don't really get to understand it. So I think what he's doing is that he actually devised a way that he thinks, makes the explanation very easy for people to actually understand and follow along as far
Oh,
as the reward
okay.
schemes are concerned. Yeah,
So,
but
so
they're a bit tricky themselves.
okay. So, by extension, what we are talking about refers to how rewards for DREPs are determined, right? And this is how
Exactly.
all these
Will be
mathematics. Yeah.
will be determined. Yeah, what's the
Oh, okay.
proposal? So
Okay.
yeah.
So then follow-up questions. So what exact criteria must a DREP meet to qualify for these results? And how often are these results, these rewards distributed to the DREPs?
Very interesting question. So the criteria, like if you want to be just a DRep, right?
Yeah.
What you have to do is you sign up and then you participate in the governance actions by voting on proposed governance actions. That is basically what is going to be your role. But to become a top DRep, right? It means that you should have received a lot of delegation from a lot of delegators. That is the only way we can actually classify you as a top DRep. But other than that, every other person is a DRep. So it's like assuming competition. At the get-go or at the word-go, everybody jumps into the water, right?
Okay.
Once they dive into the water, they are all on the same level. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you have one person actually emerging as first, the other following as second, and third, based on their efforts that they put in terms of
Oh,
swimming
okay. Okay.
across the length. You understand? So
Okay.
once you jump in to become a DRep, there are factors that you need to consider. Like and we discussed this in the previous meetings that you need to, for instance, set your own guardrails, right? And your guardrails must conform to the code of conduct that has been established. And it is through these guardrails that you're actually going to do your marketing. So you need to market yourself to attract delegators and even delegation. So if you're unable to do that, then you will just remain as a DRep with a minimum amount of delegation and
Okay.
even delegators, right? And if you happen to find yourself in such criteria, then obviously your rewards are going to be limited. You wouldn't be much as you probably may anticipate. But if you do your marketing and you do it very well, and people fall in love with your marketing and then they decide to delegate for you, then your delegation obviously will grow, and then your number of delegators would also grow, which is a key criteria that is going to be considered when we are saying somebody is a top DRep and somebody is not a top DRep. And then yeah, your second question
Interesting.
had to do with.
Okay, you are still answering the second question because I have a follow-up question on this one as well. But you can finish the second question and I'll come through. I wanted to also know, maybe you can tie in with that. I wanted to also know, as you compare these DReps rewards to, swimming, and it depends on your efforts in terms of the rating, somebody coming first, second, and so on and so forth. Is there a cap on the rewards that a DRep can earn? So no matter your effort, you can attain a certain cap, and it's like, hey, you can't go further than here. Is there something like that?
So that is where the various variants actually, come in. And
Okay.
like this is a proposal, so it's still being discussed. But if you look at the last variant, you realize that there's something like a cap in there. So regardless of your rank as a top DRep, the only thing that matters is that you find yourself in the pool of top DReps. So when you find yourself in such pool, then there's a certain percentage of the actual budget that is set aside for you guys as a bonus. So that will be split amongst yourselves as top DReps, right? As a governance action. But
Okay.
then the rest of the pool will be shared amongst all DReps, proportionally. So obviously somebody probably will get a bit higher than the other. But there's not really going to be a cap as to whether you can actually earn $1 million or you can no. But then obviously it's going to be managed such that you don't get let's say about 90% or 80% or 70% of the entire budget that has been allocated for DRep rewards, right? But
Okay.
what you're going to get obviously is going to be meaningful, it's going to make sense to you and then motivate you enough to actually want to do more. Just so that every other person also gets a chance to feel motivated some way, somehow. And then also
Go ahead.
yeah, and then talking about how often
Yeah. How
the
often
incentives will come in. Yeah. So it will depend on the number of governance actions or proposals that come forth, right? Because there has to be proposals put across, and then these proposals, actions taken on these proposals before the rewards can actually be, disbursed afterwards. But if there is no proposal yet, then it means that you as a DRep, you are not really working, right? You've not. If I say you're not really working, I'm not trying to say that you're not doing your marketing and stuff. Those are personal stuff that you actually do. But the working here I'm talking about is you voting on a governance action and expressing your decision. In favor of or let me say, in charge of your delegators, right? That is where you actually get to see the rewards from there. So after governance actions, obviously there's going to be time for reward disbursement, and then it goes on from there.
And as you talk about DReps, not performing and stuff like that, are there penalties or deductions of rewards for underperforming DReps? Is there something like that?
Not really, So it's like it's more like a free world, right? So I
Okay.
think that is where it is important that even if you're a DRep and you're not part of the top DReps, right? As much as we want to keep on motivating you, you need to also try and push yourself up, right? That's why there's going to be educational sessions and stuff going all around, so that at least you get to learn how to really build your portfolio as a DRep and attract more delegation. But if you're a DRep and you're basically not performing, there's an option for you to retire. And one thing that would probably inspire you to actually retire is that when you retire, when you are registering, you are deducted a certain amount of ADA. But when you retire, when you submit your retirement certificate and it is reviewed and accepted, this ADA that you deposited is actually refunded back to you. So probably that would be an inspiration for you to want to retire, so that at least you get to spend your few ADA that you had, right? But there's nothing like penalties that is going to be, placed across you if you are not performing as a DRep.
I see. There are lots of questions to ask. I don't know if there are more time. But I can see Martin still talking, so maybe we can also go on with some more.
Okay, sure.
By the way, if any of us have questions, they can raise their hand and they can come through with their questions.
Definitely.
talking about the earnings of DReps, it looks like well, you were not very clear on that, but can stakeholders see how much each DRep is earning, or this is only confidential information?
I think that would be maybe there could be a structure that actually, like you say, if you look at the parameters, for instance, once the parameters are actually agreed on finally and it is published, then you
Okay.
can have the parameters yourself. And then, if you know, for instance, if you are running a stake pool, let me say, sorry, a DRep as an organization, right? You
Yeah.
obviously know how much delegation you are raking in. So per your delegation, if you just oppose it like as against the what do you call it the parameters, then you should have a fair knowledge of what rewards you could actually expect at the end of probably an epoch or a governance action, right? But then
Yeah.
to say that you want to say that you probably can have a fair knowledge of what somebody else, some other DRep is actually earning, I'm not sure that is really going to work out, and I'm not sure it is going to be an open information because at least there has to be some bit of what do you call it, confidentiality here. So I'm sure that is going to be confidential to the various DReps. But then as for yours, obviously when it counts, you will see. And then even if you look at the parameters and you compare it to your delegation and delegators available, you work out the math and you obviously know how much you should be raking in as a
Yeah.
reward.
Yeah, all these questions help us for people who want to be DReps to know exactly what goes on there.
Exactly.
And so that they can be actually motivated to do
Yeah,
that.
but I think it is very necessary. But I think the other bit of it has to do with, you know, if you happen to be a DRep, you only have to ensure that at least you are doing your marketing right, and your parameters are always intact, so that you attract more delegators and more delegation. Because once you have more delegators and you have more delegation, you have that feeling of probably going to become a part of the top DReps. And as the parameters also, I mean, elaborate that, if you're part of the top DReps, obviously there could be a bonus for you guys, or the reward
Yeah.
could be shared amongst you guys. And so like
Yeah.
if you're part of the top DReps, you realize that amongst all the three variants, you are really stable in there as far as rewards is concerned. You are not stable only when you are not part of the top DReps. So everybody probably would have to struggle and strive to become part of the top DReps. And I believe that if everybody becomes a top DRep, then everybody can actually enjoy.
I see. Nana Safo, do you know, this is some question, I don't know if you know, but if you know, that would be brilliant. Do you know the portion of total funding on rewards that is allocated to DReps?
No, there's nothing yet for that because you know we are now it is still being debated, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's as it stands now, there is no definite figures and even even structure, right? It is
Okay.
still being debated upon. So a
Okay.
lot of things are actually yet to unfold
Oh,
as
okay.
we move on. Yeah.
Okay. So this is something under construction, and we might want
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, how does the reward scheme align with the goals of Project Catalyst and the Cardano ecosystem as a whole? Yeah.
So from the beginning, we I think we learned that the DRep, which is delegate representatives, it has three main branches. One has to do with the CIP 1694.
Yeah.
One has to do with the catalyst, and the other has to do with the constitutional stuff, right?
Institutional stuff. Yeah.
So, and it all comes together to actually contribute to governance of the Cardano ecosystem. So,
Okay.
this reward, that's why there's even the debate of even if there should be, an incentive for DReps. But if you look at stake pool operators, for instance, they are playing a critical role as far as the ecosystem is concerned because they mint the blocks, and then these things get actually have the ecosystem running, in terms of security and trading and stuff. But then if you look at the DReps, as we are moving towards the governance action, it's just like we having our parliament members over here. So, for instance, we want to ask ourselves: is it even necessary to pay our MPs, our members of parliament? And even if you are paying them, then what really does their, I mean, the pay they're taking actually contribute to the growth of the entire country, right? So the role that DReps are actually going to play in the ecosystem is a very vital role. And for me, I think that it is necessary for us to, have some incentive structure for them. Incentive structure in a sense that, once somebody knows that, except for, the knowledge and experience and everything, money drives people a lot. So once somebody knows that if you are doing this for the ecosystem, this is what you're going to earn, right?
Okay.
Then they are inspired to actually want to, be part of it. There are some people who have actually quit their jobs to become full-time project catalyst participants.
Okay.
They didn't quit their jobs because they felt like, okay, when I join this community, I can actually learn a lot, right? But they probably quit their job because they felt, from this community I could earn a lot to actually take care of, my bills and stuff, right? So the same way, somebody could quit their jobs to become a full-time DRep.
Okay.
And the role that they're going to play, which is reading proposals, researching around them, making well-informed decisions, is very vital. I mean, it's a very vital role that an ordinary person probably might not have the time to do. Hence, the need for them to actually delegate their voting power to this person to do this work on their behalf. So the reward system is playing a very key role, or it's probably going to play a very key role in shaping the future of the governance system for the ecosystem.
For the ecosystem, okay.
Looking at the catalyst side and also the CIP 1694 side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.